Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. This video is about why I am the master economist. First of all, let's point to something more important than what you might think of when you think of the word economy or the word economist. Moral, mental, spiritual, and romantic are all basically the same thing. They are one with each other. They are the same thing in the sense that Christ is the same as God. Where the Son is the Son, the Father is the Father, but they share important characteristics, divine characteristics. Morality in its pure form, sacred morality, what moral absolutes really are. Okay. Morality is divine. So to have a smart system, a wise system, a system that's a result of insight and sense, one has to have a moral system. Has to have has to have a spiritual system. For example, if you have a garden, even if you're an atheist, by default that garden is spiritual if it's done well. That doesn't mean you're spiritual, but that garden is. Moral, mental, spiritual, and romantic are the same thing. The spirit of something is the dominant characteristic of something. If something is truly spiritual, because the word spiritual has positive connotations, then it is truly wise, it is righteous, it is just, it is moral, and it is romantic. A sunset is a spiritual idea. And it's also a romantic idea. And it was also moral for God to make the sun set in a beautiful way, to make the sun set in general. It was wise. Through wisdom, God made the sun set. And it was righteous and just and fair and good, like it says in Genesis. And he saw that it was good. So again, the sunset is moral, mental, spiritual, and romantic. I can go on and on about this, but you need to understand that a good economy is a romantic economy, right? It is a moral, mental, spiritual, and romantic economy. Any economy that doesn't create and uphold universal romantic justice is garbage. If the economy doesn't create and uphold universal romantic justice, it is garbage. Now I have to make this distinction, and a lot of oppressors don't want me to make this distinction. The economy we have right now is not moral, mental, it's not moral, it's not wise, it's not spiritual, and it's not romantic. There's a bunch of whites, Jews, and LGBT people in suits and token minorities in suits. Okay, then you have a bunch of people who are sabotaged, homeless, living paycheck to paycheck. A bunch of people who look like Simpsons. Why? If it was genetic alone, it wouldn't be such a big deal. But it's the result of deliberate sabotage. It is social, political, and economic sabotage that has caused people to look like Simpsons, so to speak, to look like idiots, to look like fools, to look like they never grew up when it comes to the essence of masculinity, the essence of femininity, the essence of heterosexuality, what have you. In a truly just culture, you would have people who aren't racist running the system. You would have people who are fair, who care about people, who care about doing people and ideas justice. If you come from a long line of good people, okay, you should be elevated over other people. There is no romantic justice when you screen out the righteous. In Isaiah 57, for example, it says the righteous are taken away to be spared from evil. Now, this video isn't a religious video, but I'm giving you strong points of references. This is something that people have noticed for a long time, that righteous people are screened out, and a huge part of that is economic. When a righteous person sees that the poor are neglected, like in Isaiah, Like when Jesus says, that which you do for the least of my brethren, you do for me. They complain. And when they complain as uncontrolled opposition, they get screened out almost every time, like clockwork. So that economy, the type of economy that does that, is a bad economy. It puts the word bad in the phrase bad economy. Pretty straightforward. So in order to achieve romantic justice in an economy, we need to have allocations of funds for various checks and balances that support a moral system. Because love must come from justice. It's derived from justice. Romance, the idea that something is romantic means that something is moral. A true romance is derived from morality. While at the same time, it is the same thing in a sense. And it's hard to explain why, because this is a kind of intangible idea. And we don't see solid examples in popular culture. The closest thing to something I've ever come across that's truly romantic, that's a human being, somebody rather, is my pictures before they edited them. But they've edited them. We see things that mimic and mock romance, but they're derived from mere social norms, they're derived from falsehoods. Romantic justice is a phrase that shouldn't need the word true to come before it. You should already know that true love is romantic. A fake love is not romantic. It's pretending to be romantic. The economies that we have in the world are all designed, the economies of nations, that is, they're all designed to uphold injustice, especially romantic injustice. And I don't mean somebody being romantic while they're being unjust. I'm talking about sexual immorality, corrupt corporate sexual power, controlled dating, sabotage, psychological operations, propaganda campaigns for the purpose of manipulating dating. The word racist is like the word rapist for a reason. And when you think about these three words together, you should already know that I'm right. The word rape, the word rate, and the word race. The biggest rapists are determined by the idea of a rate. Well, at what rate are they raping? How many people have they raped? And that's connected to the rate. So the words rate, race, and rape are connected when it comes to what groups are the most responsible for rape. You see, I am for freedom, a free market economy, a moral system, for transparency, for pure truth, for romantic justice, and accountability, and things that are virtuous. So why don't I just spend 8 minutes, 30 seconds, or whatever, talking about what is moral, what is mental, what is spiritual, and what is romantic when it comes to the economy. Pause the video for a second, say the answer out loud, say what you think is the answer out loud, and then go back to the video and I'll explain it to you. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you paused the video and you took a stab at it, as they say. I'm the top martial artist. You took a stab at it. It strikes you a certain way. Maybe you got a kick out of it. Maybe you thought you should mentally spar me. Interesting, right? Martial is marital scramble. And martial means to order, to arrange. Perhaps someone needs to organize and order and arrange an economy that is just. When it comes to being the master economist, one must focus on what matters most. Morality, philosophy, feeding and housing the poor, management, production, distribution, use, and consumption. What I call the duck, distribution, use, and consumption. Now, when we look at an economy, right, is it a Marxist economy? Is it a socialist economy? Is it a capitalist economy? Is it an economy designed to create an oligarchy? Does it uphold democracy? Is it a moral economy? All these ideas have various forms and variations. What exactly are you trying to do, right? Motive, formula, model, and output. If you don't get past motive because your motive is stupid, it's illogical, it's irrational, it's silly, it's childish, it's toxic. If you don't get past that part, if you're too dumb to not create an economy for greedy scum, then your economy sucks and you're a bad economist. The main attribute someone has to be a good economist is universal. They have to be universally morally precise. They can stumble on their words like I have in this video because I'm being sabotaged and still be a great economist. They don't have to know everything that one could know. When ideas are always changing. Are there tariffs? What do these tariffs mean? Why are these tariffs there? How have these industries changed? There's too many moving parts to keep track of them all. An economist is like a leader. He needs to kind of get resources together, human resources, devices. He needs to do research. He needs to take notes. He needs to double check everything, what have you. The reason why I focus so much on philosophy is because we have to figure out the motive first. And get that squared away, get that on the up and up. Before we make any recommendations, before we create or reinforce or uphold, we have to get the philosophy down pat. I'm the only economist alive right now who has the philosophy straight. My philosophy and my religion are universal, pinpointed moral precision. They're not morally precise. They're not motivated by moral precision, and therefore they're lousy economists. They can learn every term that has anything to do with being an economist in college, in the dictionary, what have you, and still be a lousy economist. Where it matters most is morality, philosophy, feeding and housing the poor, management, production, distribution, use, and consumption. That's where it matters most. Striving to make an economy that is moral, mental, spiritual, and romantic. Another way to look at it is look at it in terms of being a martial artist. If a martial artist's goal is to run a human trafficking ring and beat people up, okay, no matter how well he fights, he's a lousy martial artist, especially when I've proven that to get to the pinnacle of martial arts, one has to have morally precise character. And so when we're talking about America, I had to put a mask on my face. It was like partially covering my nose, making it sound funny. So now I'm going to be fumed more while I'm trying to explain. But when we're talking about the American economy, we are talking about evil, evil people who scramble to fume, taunt, harass, and persecute people. It got so out of hand that at some point, thousands of people rushed the Capitol building on January 6th. Thousands of people. And perhaps millions of people supported it. It got so bad that a major topic at university graduations became persecution, taunts, doxing, harassment, what have you. Now, logic alone would tell you that if large groups of people are willing to come together, people in corporations, from the tech sector, from the pharmaceutical sector, to threaten you and harass you and taunt you and provoke you and scramble to find your information and blacklist you, that they're willing to fume you and poison you. Pharmakeia means sorcery and poisoning, which includes fuming. You can poison people in various ways, and gassing them is one of them. In fact, the derogatory term for homosexuals, the F word, when it's used in the plural sense, F-A-G-S, has the word gas scrambled in it, as does the word gays. Gaslighting can be seen as gayslighting, and we look up gay in the Urban Dictionary. No offense to the LGBT community. These are just the facts. It's been described as stupid and pointless. Now, is it referring to the fact that when somebody's born with gay inclination, that people might think that they're stupid by default? No. It's referring to cultures, like a gay parade. To this day, I have yet to meet a single homosexual person who would argue that a gay parade is brilliant and focused and the result of discipline and wisdom. They basically think it's stupid and pointless. It has about as much of an application as a Marilyn Manson concert. Some people like it. Some people get a kick out of it. It entertains to some degree. But when it comes to really having substance, it's basically stupid and pointless. And if we don't admit these things, because people are trying to be politically correct, because they don't want gays to persecute them or whatever, it causes problems, including economic problems. When you throw people off, it affects the economy. When you oppress people, it affects the economy. And if the economy isn't moral, wise, spiritual, and romantic, it is garbage. Scramble to correct it. Economies affect life to the extreme. And believe it or not, part of the problem we have even here in America, where everyone is very capitalist for the most part, right? It's a crony capitalist system. It's a dog-eat-dog system. It's not what you know, it's who you blow, so to speak. That's why my videos are suppressed, because I refuse to partake in sexual immorality. I refuse to play stupid about it, because I tell the truth, because I'm the top martial artist, and I'm the one who's supposed to be in charge, the number one, the alpha, the natural leader of all of humanity. As they say, there's not many human races, there's one human race. And I'm the alpha of the whole human race. And the top martial arts ever, the greatest alpha ever possible. Because of tech, breeding, cheating, and generational gun gains ruining things in the future. When we can't admit something as obvious as who's the top martial artist ever possible, who's the top alpha ever possible, what does that suggest in regards to the economy? Now, who would argue with me? Maybe a feminist, maybe a white racist, Jewish racist, maybe some racist person from another race, maybe a black racist because I'm mixed, what have you. Maybe a homosexual person. Thus, the word gaslighting is a play on words for gays lighting. And part of how we know when someone has a brain function problem is how they look at people, their expression on their face. It's nearly impossible to have a problem with brain function and to not have certain things given away, like how you get angry, exactly how you get angry. What is your expression of anger? How do you express your affection? How do you look at people? Do you stare at people like somebody who's like going brain dead or something? A certain gaze. Gaze lighting. People who gaslight are like retarded. And they often look at people like a retard would, or something to that effect, or someone with autism, someone with cerebral palsy. No offense to these people. Okay, I'm not making fun of these people, not by any measure. People with autism, Down syndrome, and cerebral palsy, and whatever other developmental disorders there are. Okay, so you see, to understand the economy, we have to first agree that the sky is blue when the water is wet, to whatever degree it is, at face value, we'll say, what have you. We have to first agree on these things. If we don't, we proceed in a stupid way. For someone to not understand the idea of a logical assumption, we make certain assumptions in economics, like rationality, that most people, they purchase in a way that it reflects a certain degree of rationality. That's an assumption. So economics and philosophy are very much about logical assumptions and sound conclusions based on the evidence. So someone can't say, well, you don't know for sure that a moral and wise and spiritual and romantic economy is better. Well, you don't have a more logical assumption. I know on a deep level that's not scientific, and scientifically speaking, you don't have a more logical assumption. What do you call somebody who follows a less insightful path, a less wise path? Someone who follows ridiculous logic instead of the most logically precise logic. A dumbass, right? An idiot. So when it comes to being an economist, they're an idiot. More than they are an economist. They're a dumbass. If you're dumb past a certain point, you're no longer an economist, you're a dumbass. Okay. Systems often come up with words and processes that even the most experienced economists don't understand. One should focus on the motive behind the system and the flow of money. Is it moral? Is it logical? How suspicious is it when they try to explain? Do they use intellectual jargon when addressing the masses? These things are far more important than trying to learn every law and every process. And quite often there's certain, acronyms that are specific to certain states and nations, what have you, and companies. Whether it is the national debt, homelessness, healthcare, Social Security, innovative social programs, and more, reasonable wealth taxes and cost-effective spending are key. Obviously, the rich exploit the workforce in every nation, and having a 70% tax rate for the rich is not unreasonable. One should even consider 80%, and in some cases 90%. Now, say you're worth $30 million, and your income is $1 million a year. If you pay 80% taxes on $1 million, you still take home $200,000. How can you then say, well, you want the money to trickle down? Wrong. The money needs to be spent in a cost-effective manner to house the poor, to feed them, and to also fund startup companies. Diverse funding is better. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't put all your eggs with the rich. Look at wise and intelligent people who graduate, especially MIT, Georgetown, what have you. People who rise above the crowd when it comes to academics, when it comes to innovation, and fund their startup companies. Give them a chance to achieve the American dream, for example, in its most moral form, mind you. And have society support them. Have them give a percentage of their proceeds to the poor. Until there is no more poor, there's just middle class and rich. That is a sound motive. The current motive that runs the system is white, Jewish, and LGBT supremacy. They have motives for oligarchy. They want to coerce people. They want people to be desperate and to be on their knees and to crawl to them for help. They want cops to say to people things like, well, maybe you should try this. You got to support yourself. They want to pass laws that have to do with your thinking, have to do with thought crimes, if you will, where they say, hey, if you think in a certain way that doesn't allow you to support yourself financially in an oligarch-run, corny capitalist system where 1 in 5 corporate CEOs are said to be psychopaths and they get together in corporate partnerships and plot to run you the way a psychopath would, that there must be something wrong with you. And they drug you until there's something wrong with you. And then they insist you stay on those drugs. That's why 1 in 5, strangely enough, it's 1 in 5 Americans are on psychiatric medication. Instead of 20%, there should be 5% or less on psychiatric medications, if that. And that goes back to the economy. They want a bunch of people drugged. They want a bunch of people desperate. They are sexual sadists. That's what's motivating. They are control freaks, right? Sexual sadists. If you're a control freak, you are a sexual sadist. Whether you have sex or not. It's that same part of the brain. It's that same spirit. You're hurting people and deriving pleasure from it by insisting that they do things that they shouldn't be doing, by making unreasonable demands. And you're deriving pleasure. That's sadistic. There comes a point where it crosses over into being sadistic, and they've been there for a long, long time. They've crossed that point for a long time. Obviously, the rich exploit the workforce. Obviously. Obviously. That's why my tax rate for the rich is more than fair for the top tax bracket. I say you only make $250,000 a year, then you don't pay 70 or 80%. They don't have a moral tax code. And the London School of Economics has shown us what we already know, that the money doesn't trickle down to any significant degree. I've gone over Reagan many times. There was an IT boom. Pharmaceuticals took off. They're putting everyone on psych meds at every turn, and IT took off. That's why the economy took off. They didn't just start giving people psych meds after 9/11 or something. These are the most profitable industries. IT infrastructure, the most profitable industry. It could take off without tax cuts for the rich. The government could invest in it. The masses of the people could invest in it. There's many ways the IT sector expands. Just as they start getting more and more money, they expand. That's how that usually goes anyway. It's not so much tax breaks that cause corporations to expand. It's profits and investors. And investors don't tend to invest all their money. And on top of that, rich people spend billions of dollars every year buying stupid things, when they instead could be buying smart things. With a change to their philosophy and a change to the economy, we could have a much better economy, a much bigger economy, and a much better economy means a much more moral economy, because economics is the science that deals with how we deal with scarcity, how we deal with the distribution of resources, especially scarce resources. Okay, I went way over time, so let me just wrap this up here and read this quickly with a minimal amount of explaining. Okay, I also recommend at least a 10% capital gains tax, because a lot of times when rich people get richer, it's in the value of their company and not their income. So one's ability to face the governing class. Okay, let me rewind here. One must continually watch how a system or nation changes as they make changes. That part is extremely important. Tariffs are a great example. You don't just blindly throw out tariffs. You do it surgically. You do it a little at a time. You see how it changes things. And of course, someone else brought this up. I examined the idea. I approve of that idea. One's ability to face the governing class and other naysayers, why they insist on truth, is more important than being a mere walking wealth of information. We're not looking for Mr. Dictionary here or Mr. Economics book. We are looking for somebody who's going to insist on a sound motive and who's going to insist on having the resources they need, whether or not they get them. That is the master economist, someone who has the philosophy that makes them the master economist, and the drive and the motive. As Bruce Lee said, right, knowing is not enough, one must apply. And of course, I'm a greater martial artist than Bruce Lee. And I'm the master economist, while he avoided the subject like the plague, for the most part at least. And martial arts are about building character. And to truly have the best character, one has to talk about how we deal with scarcity, among other things. Every good economist has people helping them out, and they can look things up. You know, whether they're just having people helping them out when it comes to watching YouTube videos. You know, what the advice these people give for free, or the information they put out there, what have you. I'm being fumed here. Let me wrap this up. Excuse me. After 4 years, since 2021 to 2025, it's June 6th today, 2025, of dedicating part of my research to researching things related to economics, I have found that my original economic theory has not changed, and that my plan is better than any other plan I have come across. My plan and my approach. I said, look at these preventable deaths. I said, look at the fact that we have immoral social orders. Okay, we need a moral order. We need people to be morally precise. We need to look at these preventable deaths. We need to organize and address them. I've been saying that we need to organize since probably about 2010 or 2011. It's now 2025. And I've been talking about preventable deaths and really emphasizing with a lot of passion and emotion since at least 2015 or 16. Okay. So it's very important to note that as my information increased, my plan did not change. Okay, the general idea that we need wealth taxes and cost-effective spending. We need affordable wealth tax, and we need to start with what is affordable. We need to take it relatively slow because, we could, have $400 billion in wealth taxes every year, right? Okay, but just take it relatively slow. And we also need to address the starvation in the world and the problems like that in the world with the other developed nations, because the moral fabric of a nation affects its economy. And to just focus on, feeding Americans and so on and so forth is not moral. It creates a vampire society that sucks the blood of the rest of the world and says, hey, we're doing well. And that's stupid. The people should complain about intellectual jargon and insist on simple money flow explanations. Okay. Where they talk about the bottom line, the budget, the revenue, and the debt, and they have these things explained simply, in layman's terms, as they say. Where the lame is really the person who's using intellectual jargon to cheat everybody. Just another lame, boring, rich person. Cheesy idiot or something, Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, just a moron. Also, they should consider the spectrum when it comes to the spending habits of the rich. Let me end it there. I forgot. They have no viable counter-argument. That's part of my economic approach. Instead of just saying, no, those guys are idiots, those guys are idiots, I emphasize the phrase, no viable counter-argument. Let's compare the models. Okay? When they flee from that, they've admitted that my economic model is superior. Thank you.